Hi, how you doing? My name's Fonseca. What's your name?
I'm Shaylin Hobson.
Pleasure meeting you. Pleasure. So far you've done your orientation today, Shaylin. What are your thoughts about big picture? What do you like and what do you dislike so far?
Wow, so much information today. I think it shows a lot of dedication and commitment from the faculty and staff. You can see that there's a strong desire to have the students excel and to provide the appropriate support and resources to make sure everyone can move forward, which is great. It is a little bit like drinking from a fire hose, and so I am very kind of structured, so I really like lists. List here what to do and list there what to do. So I'd really love to see like a summarized outline of here are all the expectations we have. Yes, here's the timelines and stuff. And I think it's challenging. Right? We're the second class, so they are still working through kinks. And so for where we are, I think the team has done a great job. But I just see continuing opportunities to develop and make it streamlined for the students.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with everything you said there, just because you can have a lot more centralized area what to look for versus having to ask different classmates, did you hear this? So you may have missed that and whatnot. That's a really good point. So you said you did, very structured person. Growing up, how were you? Were you very structured or were you very more abstract in that sense? Have you always been very structured in growing up?
You know, I have been, and I think I came from somewhat of a disadvantaged background, and so having structure made sure that I was successful, right? And so it helps me to know what's expected. Now, once I know what's expected, then I can do abstract because I know what people are looking for. But in the absence of that, it gets sometimes it's a little bit frustrating.
Right.
And so I like to think in process. I'm always seeing these flow charts in my head of what steps come next. So, very much so.
Interesting. You said you grew up in an underprivileged background. With your comfort levels, talking about that, do you mind?
No,
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm an only child. My father was a police officer. My mother worked for the bank. So as a little kid, they worked hard, right? They'd get up, it would be dark outside, I was going to the babysitter's house. But my mother passed away when I was 9. So she had a lung cancer, not lung cancer, but a lung disease. Same thing Bernie Mac had. And so that was rough. And then my father had substance abuse problems. So now I was with a widowed father who had substance abuse problems. He ended up retiring early from the police force due to medical disability.
Right.
And so my life was pretty tumultuous. So we lived in one place. I was born outside Detroit. I lived for some time with my mother's family in Ohio. Then I moved back to Detroit after she passed away, and I moved to Indiana when I was 13. And I graduated high school in Indiana. I used to live with different relatives off and on. And so, again, that structure helped me make sure I could accomplish my goals because I didn't have anyone behind me saying, hey, did you get this done? Did you get this done? And so I really thrive once I know, where those boundaries are, and then let me create the path to get there.
Right. Awesome. That's a phenomenal story. That's great. Do you feel like you can, the adaptation to like a new medical school, do you think that's going to be one of the things that you'll have to deal with as far as like curriculums are going to change because this professor wasn't? How are you going to deal with that? Because it is a new medical school versus one that's been there for a while. Do you already have mechanisms in place to deal with the adaptation process of things we're probably going to have to deal with?
That's a good question. I love when things are undefined, but I have boundaries.
Right.
So if you say to me, hey, we need you to go build this team in India, right? And we need them to do these 6 things, and we need to do it by this date. That's all I need.
Right.
So once those boundaries are set, I'm fine. So if the professor says, okay, here's what we're going to do that's different from before, those boundaries are set, I'm all ready for that. What I would not like is having those boundaries set and then the professor not adhering to those. That is when I'm like, can we just
yeah, absolutely.
Those things very
and
quickly.
like from noticing, you seem like you're someone who's respectful, but at the same time speaks their mind, so you're willing to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect. And you said, going back to tumultuous childhood as you had, do you think that background has made you the person you are now, or kind of like made you as strong-willed as you are, or how do you feel like that's shaped you today?
It's been acquired, because when you're a kid that doesn't have like a stable home, you kind of bend very easily because you want to keep a home. So you become a chameleon, so to speak. But as I started working professionally, I got my undergrad in engineering, and then I went to business school and worked for Dell for about 9.5 years, as a finance manager and a variety of roles. And it is very aggressive in that culture, so I had to learn to speak my mind or not get promoted. And I wanted to get promoted. So I learned to raise very critical questions. I worked for 4 years in internal audit and consulting. And part of that job was, I may be a junior manager, but I've got to go talk to someone in the C-suite and tell them that their process is broken and I need to fix it.
Right.
So you can't go in there weak and passive. And if I didn't do it, then my VP would come down on me and say, hey, why aren't you asking this question? So your back was kind of against the wall.
Right.
It was extremely stressful, had a lot of global travel, but I really got some good skill sets out of that, with that comfort and not being uncomfortable.
Not being uncomfortable, being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Awesome. Do you feel like you had, being in the tech business, I know that, there's a lot of barriers that glasses that need to be shattered more or less. Do you feel like being an African American woman put you in a more disadvantaged point of, or since it's a very progressive city, do you feel like that was a level playing field to begin with?
I really do think that Austin is very progressive. Where I come from in Indiana, there are still towns where black people aren't allowed after dark, and they'll say that on the signs as you go into the town. The Ku Klux Klan was still marching in Indianapolis. So when I moved to Austin, I was looking for the boundary, right? Where am I not allowed to go?
Right.
And I didn't find it. I really didn't find it. And even little towns like in Indiana, you don't just stop right at any gas station in a little small town. You pick and choose where you stop. And I was so surprised in Austin, I'd stop and I'd see a bunch of Hispanic people. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's a very different environment, and that bleeds over into the workforce. I think UT Austin helps with that, the diversity as well. And so while there were some barriers, I never really felt them. I felt
working
that
versus working somewhere else.
Exactly. It was more so, what can you do for me? What can you bring to the table? And so sometimes people interpret things as race or gender driven, but I really think it was all about, do you have the right attitude to be successful here?
Right. Great. And what made you, coming full circle here, what made you want to leave the successful field you were in and kind of going to 180 and going into medicine?
Leap of faith. No, I'd always wanted to be a physician, and even my father had always wanted that for me as well. But as I got to college, I wasn't doing very well. I didn't have the emotional support system to help me through that. And I wanted to have a job, so I switched.
Put some money in your pocket for sure.
Exactly. Became an engineer. Knew that I didn't want to be in the back office doing tech work all the time. I really wanted to influence business decisions. So I was able to do that. I had 10 years or so of being able to add that contribution, but I got bored. I mean, the role was challenging. Again, we'd have 3.5 months to stand up a new organization or whatever was required, but I knew it was wash, rinse, repeat. It was the same, and I had always wanted to become a physician. And so in 2014, the company went private, and so they offered voluntary separation packages for people that wanted to leave. And so I took my package and then went to Texas State and started taking my prereqs, and here I am.
Wow. Phenomenal story. Okay. All right. I think that's it.
Sir?
Yeah. Awesome. Good.